Republican senator from Kansas, a member of the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, and a medical doctor, Roger Marshall, joins me. Good evening, Senator. And what did you learn from this study?
Well, Greta, number one is we learned that the federal government, continue to obfuscate and try to hide things from us. They only gave us pieces of the report rather than the whole report. And I just want to remind everybody why this is so important. Over 1 million Americans died from COVID virus. Over 15 million Americans still have long COVID. We owe it to those patients, we owe it to those family members to figure out where COVID came from. So what we have is within the intelligence community is differencing of opinion. And what we would like to do is see each individual report, but the federal government continues to hide those from us. So we don't know if they're covering for Dr. Fauci. We don't know if they're covering because U.S. dollars were actually used to fund this, that we know for sure that a guy named Dr. Ben Hu, HU, that was funded with U.S. tax dollars, was probably a patient zero or one of the first patients to have the virus as well. So the jury's still out, but a preponderance of evidence shows that this virus was made in Wuhan, China, and leaked from a laboratory there.
You know, I'm so disappointed in our intel community. I mean, there's so much that I actually think they know and they're not telling us. I think they know what happened to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. I think if they don't, they're incompetent, and that's another reason to clean house. I think they probably know what happened to that dam in Ukraine recently that caused all that horrible flooding and a huge risk to people. You've got, I think maybe if they don't know the origin of COVID, that surprised me because they must have seen clusters of people getting sick in the fall of 2019 and didn't say something. I mean, how could they not? I mean, aren't we monitoring the world? And there were clusters of people in Southeast Asia getting sick. And then you've got that letter from the 51 who are bragging about their credentials when they're really pulling a fast one in that letter right before the election 2020. So, it's like, and now this report. It's like, what is this report? This report doesn't say anything. It doesn't tell us.
Right, Greta. Look, you're pointing to this preponderance of evidence that shows that this virus was made in a laboratory. Look, here we are 3 years out. They still have not shown us the intermediate species. If this came from nature, there should have been an intermediate species like a dog or raccoon dog. They've not shown us that. There should have been a progenitor virus. That the way this happens in nature is a virus just doesn't jump from a bat to humans without some cousins and some progenitor viruses out there as well. There was a litany of events that happens in September, October of 2019. Dr. Shi, the bat lady, shuts down their DNA lab bank. They're doing lots of work on the laboratory itself, that there was some major vacuum systems that are broken down as well. The military gets involved. They start working on a vaccine, and it just goes on, all these coincidences. And when you put them all together, they add up to that in a civil court case, I could show that this virus originated in Wuhan, China, was made in a laboratory, and this Dr. Ben Hu was one of the first patients, was Xi's right-hand person, who is the person who would develop the protein spike using humanized mice from University of North Carolina. So all this evidence points to this, but the intelligence community is scared of their own shadow. And why don't they declassify this information? Why won't they even share it with Congress, who has the ability to see this?
I don't know. As I noted, as I gave you my litany of lists of disappointments, just recent disappointments in the Intel Committee. Either I think that they're incompetent, which is something we really can't have because it's national security, or they're something worse. But anyway, Senator, thank you very much for joining me, sir.
You bet, Greta. Great to be with you again.